I'm with Robin Higham, who has just written a book called Who Do We Think We Are? Robin, what motivated you to write the book?
Somebody had to. In fact, that's exactly the point. I got into this subject by, shortly after retirement from Foreign Affairs, from the University of Ottawa. I put together, at the encouragement of several others, a series of 3 Canada-Europe conferences on the whole issue of multiculturalism and diversity management in Canada and in Europe. We compared notes. Those conversations were so interesting, and they were complex. And it occurred to me at the end of the 3 conferences that there's a lot of remarkably useful ideas here in language which is a little bit too complex for the non-expert to pick up. So, at the end of it, I said to myself, somebody has to write a book about who we think we are and what's working in this whole business of multiculturalism in Canada and where the weak spots are. So I didn't find any volunteers and started to do it myself little by little. As you know, you've been tracking me a long time on this project.
Well, I think it's a great project.
Well, finally, the inspiration, the motivation, I guess I should say, was because I started to worry about the backlash that seems to be coming, the increasing malaise, discomfort amongst some Canadians, some of the time, about the difficulty of absorbing too many, too fast, and as the Quebec say, with a combination which goes beyond reasonable. And the frequency of those discussions, there's hardly a day when you can't open the newspaper and find one incident or another, Canadian, American, or European, where there's a discussion, sometimes a little bit animated, about religious dress or the variety of issues like that. So, and my concern was that in Canada, we seem to have this whole idea of challenging the multiculturalism ethos as inappropriate, as politically incorrect, if you like. That we had to be very careful and skate around it without suggesting, if you were to suggest that it needs rejigging, you risk being treated as a racist or whatever. So I thought, well, it'd be useful to try and get this jargon simplified down, so as I'd like to say, the man on the bus, the woman on the bus, the child on the bus even, the non-expert can pick up the ideas fast and run with them. Also, as you know, the book starts with a list of what I call, what the players in the book call, the inescapable realities.
And I think the players, that's what makes this so accessible. You've taken these ideas that can often be very, very, very complex and nuanced.
Controversial even.
Controversial, and you put them in the mouths of your 8 different characters. And that I think succeeds very, very well.
Well, it's a cop-out. It saves me from being accused of taking one position or another, because you can be left-wing, right-wing, whatever. Yeah, you're right. We had it's written in the form of kind of radio plays, where John says this, Jack says this, and each of the players represent, 4 of them represent the voices of newcomers to Canada, and 4 of them the voices of long-established Canadians who have different perspectives on the whole issue of multiculturalism and how it happens. But they all agree at the beginning on one thing, that is more is coming. That we can no longer escape this, the conversation is here, you don't have to like it, but more are coming to this country. And the challenges for capitalizing on multiculturalism, or the challenges for dealing with its problems, are here to stay and for some time. They also agree that our well-being, that the well-being of ourselves and our children depends on us getting it right. And right now, there's no time to waste. This is not something we can continue to put off and hold in suspense. They talk also in that first chapter, the opening chapter, about the inescapable realities, that communities and countries which fail at diversity governance, which screw up one way or another at building on their diversity, they're going to fall behind the rest of us, and even their democracies have become at risk. There are tensions which are which come out very quickly in communities of diversity. Homogeneous communities tend to manage issues differently and with less crises. Diversity and diverse perspectives are dangerous to play with if you're not ready for it. They also say in those first pages that those countries which learn to leverage their diversity, to build on it, to treat it as an opportunity and an advantage, will experience a surge in the realization of the human potential of their people. It's a way to win the game rather than lose. They finally also say that diverse points of view on public policy are good for good governance, not bad. That if you can get into the public consciousness, that a listening public culture is, in a community of diversity, is a really big advantage. You can move things around and deal with opportunities and problems much more openly. They do also say that it's important that we, in our fuzziness even, that we do a little bit better at reminding newcomers that there's some obligations on their side too. The responsibilities and rights need to be put in balance. There's a big awareness abroad of potential immigrants, of the rights and the freedom you have when you come to Canada. Many of Canadian critics of multiculturalism say we have to increase awareness of your responsibilities of citizenship here, what we expect of each other as citizens. And that whole discussion about limits to the absorptive capacity, how fast can we absorb newcomers and how much space do you give them, is part of that discussion as well. And they all agree it's a little touchy, but in the end, explicit and implicit as well, is the notion that basically human nature abhors diversity. It's a little strong to use the word abhors, but is not comfortable that most people, most of the time in most societies, in most of mankind's history, prefer to live with their own kind. You bring in others, and in spite of the fact that we have so much in common, it's the places where we're different which stand out and create the tensions. We need to work at building communities which get over that, which take us around, let us skate around that discomfort of living with others, instead look at it as exotic and fun. Living in homogeneous societies is like saying, I don't want to travel. And most Canadians, I think, like the idea of traveling, experiencing others and otherness. The trick is to get them to like it at home as well.
Yeah, it's true enough.
The rest of the book takes us through, I should just mention it because sometimes it's fun to go through the chapters. They talk about what's your problem, and the four say, go through a list of issues which give them the discomfort. Too much, too fast, it happened without me, without us giving our approval. Nobody asked me, exactly. Sure. All those ideas that you can anticipate are listed there. It snuck up on us. They talk a little bit what I call our homegrown myths, the idea that we're getting it right or that we're doing better than we actually are. That's one of the subjects. There's a discussion of what happens internationally and how others are doing and how we look from abroad. And I bring up there some of the idea the Europeans mention in our conferences and our discussions, that they would like to see us learn to talk about our model, or our non-model, if you like, better, because they're copying it and they worry that if we screw up, their example is looking even worse.
I think we have to say, I mean, I think you cover the points also well, but I mean, the question comes up, so Robin Higham, where do we go from here?
Well, it's tough. First of all, I think it is to pry open the conversation. We have to get used to speaking about it, not be too shy. Speak into the microphone as George Brown did, perhaps a little unexpectedly yesterday. We got caught talking about it with the mic on and suffered the consequences of saying what he thought. He misinterpreted, I guess, what the lady who gave him so much embarrassment said. But he had the mic on, and I think that's not a bad idea. We have to turn on the mic and start talking about this more openly, with less nervousness. There's a lot of humor in it, and Canadians are usually good at making fun. One of my chapters, one of the chapters, where we talk about characteristics of some Canadians, some of the time under certain circumstances, reminds us that it's humorous. Where do we go from here? After the conversation,
in 20 seconds.
I think we have to lay down what I call the non-negotiables. What the Dutch told us that you better start talking about enforcing the law in all circumstances, not just skate around the ethnic applications of not just the law, but also to come up with some kind of civil code, some kind of comportment.
And we should say, too, that your book is available.
Yes.
Nicholas Horror.